Aston Martin could lose the season before the first race even begins. Days before the Australian Grand Prix, Honda has admitted that the AMR26 was forced to run with over 100 horsepower reduced in testing, just to stop the battery from destroying itself. Not overheating. Not a minor glitch. Structural vibration damaging the core of the hybrid system. And now, with Melbourne only days away, Honda has finally broken its silence. They are bringing reinforced battery structures, new hybrid deployment maps, major cooling changes, and what insiders are calling a massive emergency upgrade package. But here is the real tension. These upgrades are not designed to make the car faster. They are designed to keep it alive. If this package works, Aston Martin stabilizes and unlocks the true potential of the new concept. If it fails, the entire Honda partnership starts under a cloud of pressure that could define the season. And there is one detail about the Australian specification that almost nobody is talking about, a detail that explains why internal tension is rising right now. Subscribe now, because what happens in Melbourne will not just start the season. It could decide it. Pre-season testing in Bahrain was supposed to be the calm before the storm. A quiet confirmation that the new Honda era was ready. Instead, it exposed a fracture at the heart of the AMR26. On the surface, the car looked sharp, compact, aggressive, incredibly tight at the rear. But once it ran meaningful laps, something felt off. Engineers began noticing unusual vibration signatures in specific engine speed ranges. Nothing dramatic at first. Just irregular frequency spikes buried inside the telemetry. Then the battery data started flashing warnings. Temperature fluctuations during heavy deployment. Voltage instability during aggressive charge cycles. Unexpected stress readings inside the pack structure. And here is where it escalated. During one of Alonso's stronger runs, Honda detected patterns associated with internal battery risk. The call came immediately. Stop the car. Not reduce pace. Not switch modes. Stop. Because the vibrations from the V6 were aligning with the natural resonance frequencies of the chassis and battery support structure. When that happens, energy does not dissipate. It amplifies. And amplification inside a high-density hybrid battery is not a performance issue. It is a safety issue. This is why the final day in Bahrain ended with only 6 laps completed. 6 laps that revealed more about the AMR26 than hundreds of simulation hours ever could. But here is the detail that changes everything. Honda tested different battery units. The issue repeated. That means the battery itself is not the root cause. It is the integration. The way the engine mounts to the chassis. The stiffness of the rear structure. The extreme packaging philosophy that leaves almost no room for thermal and mechanical tolerance. Adrian Newey pushed the concept to its limits. Minimal body volume. Tight side pods. Reduced cooling mass. A masterpiece on paper. But extreme packaging has consequences. Less space means less vibration damping. Less airflow means higher sustained temperatures. Higher temperatures mean more stress on hybrid components. And when you combine mechanical vibration with thermal overload, you create a compounding problem. That is why Honda had to detune the engine significantly in Bahrain. In some long runs, the power reduction was massive. And that created a second problem. Straight line deficit. Against Ferrari. Against Red Bull. Against Mercedes. Now imagine heading into Melbourne with that uncertainty. Australia is not forgiving. Heavy traction zones. Long acceleration phases. Aggressive energy recovery. If the hybrid system is even slightly unstable, Albert Park will expose it. And this is where internal tension begins to surface. Because from the aerodynamic side, the car shows potential. Even with reduced power, the platform looked stable through high-speed sections, which suggests the chassis may be strong. But from the power unit side, the message is different. Until vibration is controlled, performance must be limited. And that creates a philosophical clash. Push the concept further, or pull it back for survival. Melbourne will be the first real answer. And what Honda is bringing to Australia is not just an upgrade package. It is a stress shield. A defensive layer designed to protect the project from collapsing before it even properly begins. But whether that shield is strong enough, that is what the first Grand Prix of the season will reveal. But the real shift for Australia is not just mechanical. It is philosophical. Honda and Aston Martin have accepted something uncomfortable. Melbourne is not about unlocking full performance. It is about controlled survival. The first major change coming to the AMR26 is a reinforced battery support structure. Not a complete redesign, but an intermediate solution. Stronger mounting points. Revised damping materials. Subtle geometry adjustments designed to interrupt the vibration path from the engine into the battery casing. It is surgical, targeted, and urgent. At the same time, Honda is introducing revised hybrid deployment maps. Expect smoother torque delivery out of slow corners, less aggressive energy spikes, more predictable transitions between combustion and electric power. That means the car may feel calmer, but also slower, because sharp electrical punch is one of the biggest performance weapons in modern Formula One. Reducing it protects the battery. It also limits overtaking potential on long straights. And there is another layer: cooling. In Bahrain, Aston Martin physically opened the bodywork. Extra louvres appeared around the engine cover. The rear body section was adjusted to release trapped heat. In Melbourne, that approach continues. More breathing room for the Honda power unit. More airflow through the side pods. More extraction around the rear. But here is the cost. Opening the car increases drag. And drag at Albert Park is unforgiving. That circuit rewards straight-line efficiency. If the AMR26 runs in a conservative hybrid mode and with added drag, the top speed deficit could become very visible. Now imagine Fernando Alonso sitting in that cockpit. He knows the aerodynamic platform might be strong. Onboard footage suggested stability at high speed even with limited power. That is encouraging. But stability without deployment is incomplete. Because this generation of cars depends on energy release precision. And that brings us to the aerodynamic package itself. New front wing revisions are expected. Adjustments to airflow conditioning at the nose. Rear wing changes aimed at balancing the extra cooling drag. Modifications around the Coke bottle area to improve heat evacuation without destroying diffuser efficiency. This is not a cosmetic update. It is a recalibration of philosophy. Newey is not abandoning the radical concept, but he is softening it, simplifying certain surfaces, making airflow behavior more robust. Because an extreme concept only works when every subsystem cooperates. Right now, they are not fully aligned. And this is where the tension inside the team becomes strategic. Do you protect the engine and sacrifice early performance? Or push the limits and risk another public failure? Australia will answer that question. 300 kilometers. Full race intensity. Safety car restarts. Variable temperature swings. If the reinforced structure absorbs the vibration. If the conservative maps stabilize the battery cycle. If the cooling modifications keep temperatures within margin. Then Aston Martin walks away with something more valuable than points. Confidence. But if Melbourne exposes another structural weakness, the narrative shifts immediately. From temporary integration issue to conceptual miscalculation. And that is why this first Grand Prix matters more than it appears. Not because it will crown a champion, but because it will reveal whether the AMR26 is a delayed contender, or a project already under reconstruction pressure. And the most fascinating part? We will not know which one it is until the lights go out in Australia. But there is one more layer to this story, and it might be the most important of all. Time. Because when a season begins under new regulations, the first races shape everything that follows. Development direction, resource allocation, internal confidence, even political leverage inside the team. And right now, Aston Martin is not starting from a position of calm control. They are starting from correction mode. Adrian Newey has already hinted that the car we see in Melbourne will not resemble the one from the early shakedown. That alone tells you how aggressively they are reacting. But here is the key detail. This Melbourne package is not the final answer. It is step one of a progressive redesign. Newey is effectively running parallel paths. One path stabilizes the current concept so the car can race without self-destructing. The other path evaluates which elements of the extreme packaging philosophy are worth keeping, and which ones need to be softened. That is a delicate balance. Because if you open the car too much, you lose the aerodynamic gain that justified the risk in the first place. If you do not open it enough, Honda cannot unlock power safely. And there is something else most people are not considering. Under the current engine development framework, manufacturers that begin the cycle at a deficit may receive greater development flexibility over time. If Honda proves to be behind early, they could gain more room to upgrade compared to rivals who started strong. That could become a long-term advantage. But only if the foundation survives the opening phase of the season. You cannot exploit development windows if you are constantly managing reliability crises. And that is why Australia becomes a stress test not just of hardware, but of direction. If the reinforced battery structure holds, Honda can gradually increase deployment aggression in the following races. If the cooling modifications stabilize temperature spikes, Aston Martin can begin refining aero efficiency again. If vibration frequencies are brought under control, the team can finally explore the real ceiling of the AMR26. But if Melbourne exposes another resonance issue? If hybrid limits must remain heavily restricted? If straight-line deficit becomes too large? Then the conversation shifts toward deeper structural changes much earlier than expected. And that would redefine the season. Fernando Alonso understands this better than anyone. He has lived through integration struggles before. He knows how quickly optimism can turn into rebuilding. His tone after Bahrain was not dramatic. It was realistic. He acknowledged they feel several seconds off the leaders right now. That is not panic. That is awareness. Lance Stroll has been even more direct. More power is needed. And inside Honda, engineers are working around the clock to deliver that power safely. But safety and speed are rarely aligned at the beginning of a project. So when the lights go out in Melbourne, we are not just watching lap times. We are watching alignment. Alignment between chassis and engine. Between ambition and execution. Between radical design and mechanical tolerance. If alignment begins to appear, even subtly, then the early tension becomes a foundation for growth. If misalignment continues, then 2026 risks becoming a transition year rather than a title push. And that is the real weight hanging over Aston Martin right now. Australia is not just the first race. It is the first verdict on whether this ambitious partnership can handle pressure, or whether it will be forced into early reinvention. And sometimes, the opening chapter tells you exactly how the entire season will unfold.